So welcome to Library Research 101. I am so glad that you've joined us today. My name is Chelsea and I'm here with Ian. We are both librarians here at Brock University. And today we'll be giving you sort of insider expert tips on conducting your research with library resources. So our contact information is on this slide. We'll be sharing a slide deck after today's presentation. So you can get in touch with any additional questions you might have at any point. So through today's presentation, I'll be using a tool called Mentimeter, and I like to check in with our audiences sort of at the very start of our presentation. I'll go ahead and paste a link in the chat here. This is a tool, an anonymous polling tool that we can use to ask questions during today's presentation. So if you'd like to participate with our Mentimeter poll, you are welcome to click the link, enter in the numerical code up at the top of the screen, and let us know in one word, how are you feeling today? I think it's always nice to check in, get a sense of how everyone is doing. And if you would rather participate, maybe verbally, if you would rather type in the chat, you're welcome to do that as well. But there are a few activities we'll be using Mentimeter for today. So you can keep this open in a tab in your browser or even on your phone and just kind of keep it off to the side during today's presentation. So we have one vote in here, ready to learn, 3 words. That's awesome. Sometimes you can't contain it to just one word. Anxious, that's another one that's coming in here. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. This is a very busy time of the term. There's a lot of research that needs to be done, and it can feel a little overwhelming and make you feel a little anxious. So that's totally fair. Thank you for participating in this. It's nice to sort of get a baseline for where we're at. My next question that I have for us is, what year are you in? Just to get a sense of a little bit more about you, who our audience is today. We've got first year, awesome. So this hopefully will be really, really helpful to you as you move through the rest of your sort of academic career, as you continue along with your studies. This will hopefully provide a lot of insight into some of those tricks that'll really help you find what you need a little more efficiently. And our final question here is, what is your area of study? We have some resources in the library that are maybe a little more broadly applicable to a bunch of different subject areas, and we have others that are perhaps a little more niche. So humanities, that's great. Definitely some of the resources, we'll be talking a lot about Omni today. You can find a lot using Omni, but we'll also point in the direction of where you can find some more specific databases and resources as well. So we've got you covered. Awesome. So thank you for participating. We've got, one more vote coming in, social sciences and biology. Cool. Yeah, we'll be touching on a lot of different resources. So we'll definitely be covering relevant resources to these areas as well. Okay, so thank you for participating. Again, we'll return to Mentimeter shortly, but we'll dive in now to some of the content we're going to be covering today and why this workshop is important. So by learning how to break down your topic and speak the database's language, you'll be able to find better resources for your research projects, and you'll be able to do this faster. That's really the goal of this workshop. You'll be more efficient, you'll be more organized, and ultimately you'll find better material that you can use as you're putting together your final papers and your final projects. So what exactly will you get out of today's workshop? After this presentation, you'll be able to break down your topic, identify key concepts, and develop a good search strategy. You'll be able to refine your research question and navigate a path through your research to find what you need. You'll be able to identify high-quality scholarly sources, databases, and strategies to evaluate web sources. And you'll be able to find additional resources like Google Scholar and subject databases to locate relevant materials. So this is a fair bit. I'm curious to know what you're most eager to learn in this session. Is there something from that list that maybe jumps out to you right away? Like, oh yes, search strategies, that's the thing that I really need to learn. Or perhaps is there something that we missed in that really quick overview of some of the skills you'll be taking away from this session? I'll give it a moment just to see if there are any votes that come in. We've got Omni. We'll definitely be covering Omni in this presentation. We use it for a lot of our examples too, so you'll be really well versed in Omni by the time we're done today. And I'll give it just a little extra time, see if there's anything else. And if there's anything too that you sort of think up along the way, we can address that anytime in the presentation. So where to start? Yeah, where to start is a really good topic, and that's where we can start with soon enough. So let's move us forwards here into part one, which is identifying our key concepts, and we'll look at generating key concepts and related terms and developing a search strategy. So really this comes at the very beginning of our research process. This is our where to start portion. So before you start searching, I will emphasize that it's important to read your assignment carefully. You want to make sure you know exactly what question is being asked of you and what resources you're going to need to find. It can be very useful to highlight the key concepts that appear in your research question, and this will give you a head start for developing your search strategy. So making sure you really understand the parameters you're working within and what topic you've been given will be really, really helpful. But when it's time to start running with that topic and figuring out what resources you're going to need to be searching for, it's good to go in with a strategy. And to develop a search strategy, you're going to need to get really clear on your key concepts. So what are key concepts? Basically, databases don't understand natural language. We're a little spoiled with Google because we can ask Google a full question and Google will understand us. But a lot of the databases that we need to be searching for academic research don't understand full sentences and full questions. We have to instead take key concepts from our research question more broadly, or our topic more broadly, and enter them as individual search terms. So these key concepts are the main ideas. They're usually nouns that appear in your search question. And the easiest way to kind of explain what a key concept is to practice identifying some. So into my question here, what are the key concepts in this research question? What is the relationship between mental health and exercise in seniors? What are some terms that we could break this question down into when we're conducting a search? What are those main ideas? Okay, we have some votes coming in here. We've got seniors, we've got mental health, we've got exercise, we've got, ooh, seniors or elderly. That's awesome. I'll definitely keep that in mind. And yeah, we've got health, we've got mental health. Cool. So we've got some very sort of key ideas coming in here. We're getting some similar content. So if we move on to our next slide, we can see, yes, absolutely. I've highlighted our key concepts here: mental health, exercise, and seniors. Those are absolutely our key concepts. Wonderful job. Once we identify those key concepts, we need to start thinking of some related terms. So these are other ways of phrasing our key concepts, and we would want to include these in our search, and I'll break down how we would include these in a few moments to broaden our search results, because some authors might use different words to describe essentially the same thing. But the database is going to be very literal. It's only going to search for what we tell it to search for. So we need to include those other phrasings because the database won't know that they mean the same thing. So again, it's good to practice. What are some related terms that you can think of for the key concept of seniors? So what are some other ways we could phrase that? And I'll say one of our votes that came in for our key concepts, that seniors or elderly, that's getting in the right direction here. So what are some other terms we can come up with related to seniors? Okay, we've got some coming in. We've got elders, we've got aged, older people, pensioners. That's awesome. Yeah, so any of these terms, these are other ways of phrasing seniors. We could work these into our search, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But you would want to do this for all of your key concepts. Think of different ways that you could sort of brainstorm what other phrasings could be. You could think of synonyms, you could think of even antonyms sometimes. So if you're looking at mental health, for example, maybe mental illness would be a related term. Some people might describe concepts related to mental health using the language of mental illness. That could be another useful term. Also thinking of broader terms could be helpful, and maybe narrower terms. So again, with mental health, maybe we want to look at maybe health more generally. That was a term that came up when we were looking at our key concepts earlier. And narrower terms, maybe if we were interested in depression in particular, that could be a narrower concept related to mental health. So you can see here, I've decided to start organizing my terms, and I strongly recommend this kind of chart. I find it works really well. We take the key concept from our research question and we put it in the first column of a chart, and then across the row, we start listing our related terms. So you could have a separate box for each related term. To not have an overwhelming chart here, I started grouping some terms together, but it's totally up to you how you want to organize that here. You can see each concept gets its own row, and then across the row, we start listing those related terms. So mental health, we have the related terms of well-being, we have depression, anxiety, happiness, those are all narrower terms. Exercise, we have related terms like movement, physical activity, and then again, those more specific examples, running, swimming, and walking. And seniors, like we brainstormed, we have elder, we have aged, and then we have some of those more specific terms, 80 years, age 80, and we've organized them into this chart. You'll notice that there are some quotation marks around some terms, and there's a little asterisk at the end of another term. And these are advanced search syntaxes. I don't know. They're little things you can add on to your search to make it slightly more specific in terms of what you're looking for. So using quotation marks is called phrase searching, and this can be really, really useful to make sure you're getting exactly what you're looking for. So you would put the quotation marks around a multi-word phrase, usually 2 to 3 words, and you're telling the database to look for exactly these words exactly as they appear together. So for example, if I had physical activity entered as a search term and I wasn't using quotation marks, I might get the word physical showing up on page 1 of a result and activity showing up on page 3 of a result, but I might not actually get physical activity appearing together as a 2-word phrase. If I use those quotation marks, then the database knows, okay, you're looking for physical activity, and it'll pull back results that contain that 2-word phrase exactly as it's typed in. The asterisk is called truncation, and this will broaden your search results. You add that asterisk to the root of a word, and it will bring back all possible endings. So my example here is elder. If I have elder asterisk, I will get elder, elders, elderly, and any other variation on the word elder that might exist. But I will say use caution. If you truncate too much, you might retrieve some irrelevant results. And my example here is if I was searching for the word library, but I truncated it to LIB asterisk, I would get library and libraries, but I would also get liberty, liberation, and anything else that started with LIB. So I would actually get way too many irrelevant results that wouldn't really be a useful form of truncation. So once we've brainstormed our key concepts, we've come up with a bunch of related terms, and we've edited them with our phrase searching and our truncation so that we're getting as many relevant results as possible. It's time to put it all together and make a search string out of this that the database will understand. So we need to link our key concepts and related terms with the little bits of logic that the database uses to understand what we're looking for. And those are Boolean operators, or and. So the Boolean operator OR joins the key concept to its related terms. This will ultimately bring back more results. So I like to remember this as OR is more. And my example here is with the key concept of exercise. I would tell the database to look for exercise or running or swimming. It'll bring back any one of those options because I'm giving it 3 different options and saying, okay, this one or this one or this one is totally fine. The Boolean operator AND is used to join a key concept and its set of related terms to other key concepts and their related terms. This narrows your results because you're being more demanding of the database and you're asking it to find multiple things at once. So my example here is all 3 of our key concepts. I'm telling the database I'm looking for mental health and exercise and seniors. It has to find all 3, and this will ultimately only bring back results that contain all of those terms, not one or the other. It's got to have all of those things. So when you go to put it all together, it'll look something like this in our chart. Across each row, we join our key concept to our related terms with OR. So across each row, we join things with OR, and then each row is joined to the row underneath it with AND. When we enter this in a database, it might look something like this. So you'll notice I'm not using all of the terms from my chart. You don't necessarily need to use everything all at once. And our next section will be navigating that sort of shifting path where you can tinker with your search terms a little bit. But you can see in the advanced search, this is a screenshot of what it looks like in Omni. We enter each concept on its own row of the search. So this mimics, again, our chart. Each concept gets its own row. This is also true of the advanced search. We enter in our search terms. Each row is joined with and within each row, if we have related terms that we're adding to the search, we link it together with or. So in this final row here, you can see I have senior or elderly. And we could then go ahead and hit search. So that's what the advanced search might look like when you've put together your search string. And now we can move into sort of how we can refine our searches and update what we're looking for in relation to what we find. So I'll pass things over to Ian.
Thanks, Chelsea. Wow, so much there to remember. Just to hold a place for you if you have a question or there's something you didn't understand, we'll have time at the end to go over that. So park those ideas or those questions or that feedback we'll be certain to ask you at the end of the presentation. Identifying key concepts and breaking down your topic is really essential to being effective. Now, this part will cover research as an iterative process. You have a research question. We've kind of given you an example. Now what do you do? So here's an example of a search. And often I ask people I work with, when you're doing a search, do you have too many? Do you have too few? How comfortable do you feel? Well, as an iterative process, we call Research 101 kind of like the art of online searching. There's no one way to do it. Only you know when you're getting the right results. And hopefully through this particular workshop, you'll know how to refine your search strategy such that you can navigate a path to find the results that you need. Here's a search in Omni, and it's pretty big. 1,000, well, let's go over that number. It identifies resources and sorts them and gives you filter options as well. That first item looks great. The second looks good, but again, you need to evaluate it. Only you know what you're looking for and how it relates to the assignment, the lab, the seminar, or probably more importantly, the essay that you're doing as well. This first item is highlighted. It gives you a title of an article, it gives you a citation, and you can dig deeper by clicking on it. But 139,000 results. Is that too many, too few, or just right? Probably too many. It's hard to know, but the research paradigm we usually follow is that, see, I found 100 results. I looked at 40. 20 look interesting. I found 8, I downloaded 3, and I'm ready to go, but I want to learn as I move through that iterative process. So here's an example of a citation, but on the left-hand side, there's a number of filters that you can use. Again, we want to navigate a path so that you find the right number of resources, and then you can analyze whether they reflect the assignment that you're doing, the essay that you're working on, or just grabbing ideas of words and language and context so that you can find the number of results that you're looking for. On the left-hand side, there's a number of filters that you can use. So making adjustments with those filters. Library research is an iterative process, as I said. It's not a straight line. Sometimes people luck out and they get the results that they want, or sometimes they take a long time and they're just not finding what they're looking for. Even the most seasoned researchers like Chelsea and myself, we sometimes are stumped by new, interdisciplinary, or just difficult topics where the English language, which isn't perfect, we need to use, doesn't quite get the things that we need to get. You may encounter new information, roadblocks, or inspiration that prompts you to adjust your question or research strategy. Iterative, meaning you can turn the corner or go down that path. It's okay to have more questions along the way. It's a learning process. Even Chelsea and myself are continuing to learn how to do this appropriately. Narrowing a search question. That's probably the first thing that I do. 139,000 results is probably too many. So using the database filters, our concepts, our keywords, and getting to a number that's more manageable is usually a strategy that's successful. What is the relationship between mental health and exercise in seniors? Well, you think that there'd be 100 articles, I'd use 50 and then grab 5 or 6, but really I need to narrow that because I'm finding too many results. I'm finding too much information. I'm going to narrow my question by picking a specific example. That's a definite strategy that most people use, picking a specific example. What is the relationship between mental health and exercise in seniors? Okay, let's narrow this down. What is the relationship between depression and aquatic aerobic exercise in seniors? So we have 3 concepts, and you've done an excellent job of bringing synonyms in for these concepts as well. Narrowing it down and learning as you move along your search is always a successful exercise, so that you go over a manageable number of references and find them and tag them and put them to one side so that they may be appropriate to looking at when you finish your search strategy. So refining and narrowing your topic is something that's most often done. Choosing a more specific search field is another way of doing it. Let's say you need 10 peer-reviewed scholarly articles, or I've got 3 buckets, seniors, aged, and exercise. I need 3 examples of articles in each one of those, so maybe 9 articles. So you can manage your results and refine them. When it's searched in Omni, it's a great sort of database to search because it tells you how much is out there before you move on to a more specific database. Clicking on any field, so you have your phrase searching and you have your truncation there, and that seems to work well. But when you click on any field option, it gives you a number of exercises. And sometimes what I do is I search for keywords or phrases in titles of articles. If I only need 3 articles, I'm kind of going right to my end results and trying to attempt to find articles that are specific using the natural language and the key concepts that I've used to find fewer results, to be more valid, to be more appropriate, and hopefully that works. So narrowing your search strategy by using words and titles or words and subjects. There's a variable research strategy here, sometimes helps you getting a smaller set of good results. So here's some of the filters that are used on Omni, and every database has a list of filters. So if you can't figure them out, ask for help. They're usually pretty self-evident, usually on the top right-hand corner, publication date. So you can sort your records in Omni. The default is by relevance, meaning the most appropriate resources the database thinks are first, by sorting them by date or listing them in reverse chronological order. Sometimes going over through 2 or 3 screens of 5 or 6 years of results is a good idea. Refining by subject is another way to do that. By database, it's listed on the bottom. So Omni scrapes through a number of databases, or maybe format, resource type. I'm just looking for articles right now. Books are important and other resources are important. So keywords in titles maybe, and just looking for scholarly articles, maybe looking at them from one database and then sorting them by relevance and then flipping that to sort by date. Usually you can find a number of things as you move along that process. So it's an iterative process. Hopefully this skill will help you to find more relevant results. So here we got 2 results. Now 139,000 down to 2 is probably a huge chasm. Am I missing something? Sometimes going right for the throat and grabbing results that are appropriate are good. Maybe both of these results were great, but maybe it's too narrow and you need to move back. So narrowing research strategy or broadening it are 2 strategies most students and researchers use as well. So here's 2 results. Broadening your research questions. Sometimes when you've gone too far down that hole or you followed that shiny object and you've got too few, I need to fill other buckets of my concepts, or I just need 3 or 4 or maybe 10 articles that may be appropriate. I'm not finding much. I'm going to broaden my research question. So what is the relationship between depression and aquatic aerobic exercise in seniors? Not knowing what your key comps may bring up a number of results, but let's change that to maybe what is the relationship between depression and cardio exercise in seniors? Again, an iterative process. If you're not finding what you're looking for, go back, go forward, but consider changing your language, your key concepts, your terms, and then modifying your search. That's a strategy most students use. Check your assignment for instructions. Remember to read your assignment correctly. Make sure your adjusted question still fulfills your research assignment. This is really important. Doing an assignment, searching for results, it's hard to find the 1 or 2 or 10 exact papers that are on your topic. So you kind of have to browse and peruse, and we've given you some strategies, but make sure you go back to your assignment, because a good assignment is a done assignment, but a good assignment meets the requirements for the course. And I always say, and I know Chelsea does as well, if you have problems and questions, go back to the TA, your seminar leader, even the faculty member. If indeed you're moving past what the assignment asks for, you certainly don't want to do an essay that's not topical, it's not a topic. So make sure to remember to read the assignment carefully, really important. Discover more material. Another way to research, it isn't a straight line. I mean, we've kind of gone over here, gone over there, backed up and gone forward. You can use one good resource to jump to others. This is a really neat strategy as well. So here we go. What strategies have you heard of or used to find related information? I'd like to choose one that goes through. So go to Mentimeter. What strategies have you heard of or used to find related information? What works for you? We'll give you a minute to fill this in. Okay, we've got some results. Looking at works cited list, meaning the reference list of the work, the book, the edited paper. Related articles, some databases do that as well. Find other works by the same author. That's awesome. Browsing the shelves. Oh, that sounds like old world terminology, but you know what? I do that all the time too. Serendipity is a research method. You go, oh, that looks interesting. Let's try this. Iterative process. It's great not to take too much time, but to do that as well. Finding other works by the same author. Reading a literature review. Awesome. Checking the cited by list. So great results. You guys are doing great here. What is citation chaining? It's a word we use in the library. It has different words to use it. Backwards, find earlier works, published resources by looking at an article's works cited list. Someone kind of clicked that in the Mentimeter poll that we did. Looking at the references that are listed, sometimes electronically in the database, or going to the full text of the article, the chapter, or the book and see what's cited, knowing that scholarly research builds on previous knowledge. What's new or novel, or what's different. So beg, borrow, don't steal, but cite, don't plagiarize other people's work to see what they've cited. Citation chaining involves going backward, but this is maybe something new to you. It means going forward as well. Find more recent resources that have cited your journal article since it was first published. So something older, it may have been used by somebody else and linked, and sometimes the databases, including Omni, does that. So backward citation chaining, and hopefully this is new to you, forward citation chaining. So here's an article in Omni, and most databases have aids to do this. It's kind of neat. Sometimes you have to look for it, but sometimes it's pretty evident. These two symbols here help you to go forward and backward. So here's an article you may have found, gives you a citation, gives you author's title, it's an abstract. You can click on it to find more information, and click on a link to find the full text of it. That's more than likely in our library as well. But looking at the references for this article may be interesting. Going forward may be interesting as well. It's up to you. I always do this if I find a really good article. We're going to move on to part 3, which is evaluating resources. Off to you, Chelsea.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So again, we'll have lots of time for questions towards the end if you do have any questions bubbling through this process. But we'll be touching now on how to evaluate some of the sources that you'll be coming across when you're conducting your searches. So to get started, we'll talk briefly about what a scholarly article actually is, because many assignments will ask you to find specifically a scholarly article or a peer-reviewed article, but what does that even mean? A scholarly article is an academic publication that has been written by an expert for an audience of experts. This could be a university professor, a researcher, it could be someone at a research institution, maybe a part of a think tank. Basically, if you're looking for something that's been created by an expert for an audience of experts, you're in the right territory. Now, many scholarly articles, but not all scholarly articles, are peer reviewed. This is a common requirement for many assignments, and all this means is that an article has been examined by other experts in the field, so the peers of this researcher, prior to the article's publication. So it's been vetted by others who are experts, and they're sort of giving it the stamp of approval that, yes, this is good research, this is quality information, this person knows what they're talking about. That's the nature of peer review. Some clues that an article is scholarly, maybe if you're a little uncertain about the material you're looking at, you might want to take a look at the author's credentials, asking if they're affiliated with a research institute or a university. And you might also want to look at the tone of the article. It's usually pretty easy to tell if an article has been written for an academic audience. It'll use some specialized vocabulary versus something that's been written for the general public. So those might be some indicators that you're looking at a scholarly article. You might also be asked to find empirical research, and it's not always easy to tell if you're finding something that is considered empirical research, but all this is original research that's been conducted in order to answer a specific question through direct examination of populations and or phenomena. So somebody has gone, they've done this research themselves, and they're writing it up. That is empirical research. And most empirical research, the articles follow a fairly similar format. So if you see an article that contains an introduction outlining what the question is to be answered, a literature review, sort of going over what studies have been previously conducted that relate to this area of research, if it includes a methodology outlining how the researchers have approached their original research in search of an answer, what their results are, and a broader discussion looking at the implications of their findings, there's a good bet that this is a piece of empirical research. And it's also really handy too when you're maybe looking at articles to get a sense if you're on the right track, if this article looks like it has bearing on your particular research topic. Jumping down sometimes to the discussion can be really, really handy. Getting sort of into the meat of the paper. That might give you some insight a little bit faster. As opposed to starting at the very beginning, reading through the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, all the way down. Instead of doing that, maybe jumping straight to the discussion, cut to the chase. Is this on your topic? That might be a faster way for you to kind of verify if you're on the right track with this article. And of course, as we just discussed, maybe taking a look at the literature review can help you jump around to some other resources that can be really useful to you as well. So these are common elements of empirical research. They might be handy as you start to evaluate some resources that you find in your search results. And now through all of this, you might be wondering about web resources more generally, because we're talking about a lot of academic material that you can find through Omni, but for some research questions, results from Google can be okay. You might want to use them too. So an example here, if you had a research question, let's say on UNESCO's role in world literacy, UNESCO's website would be an excellent resource for this topic because they are an authority on what they do. So you would find a lot of information on literacy, social issues, international initiatives, data, commentaries, and UNESCO itself. This would be a great resource to include in that research. And some other examples that might give you a sense of where Google can be really helpful. If you had to do some research on, say, the Mona Lisa, looking at the Louvre's website could be really handy for you as well. And this is something that you can only really find on the open web. You're not going to see the website listed in Omni because Omni contains almost everything that the library subscribes to, but the open web is a little bit different. But the Louvre, because that's where the Mona Lisa is housed, would be an authority on the Mona Lisa, and you might want to cite some information that they make available on their website as well. If you had a research topic on the Mona Lisa's impact on popular culture, you might even want to take a look at some popular culture websites. And this could even include social media like Twitter, Tumblr, you name it. So you can get creative with a lot of your research. You're not always going to be limited to just scholarly articles in what you look at. But it is important to evaluate the web resources that you come across. Web content can be of varying quality and of varying value. Especially these days, we live in the era of fake news, and there's a whole lot of questionable information that's out there. So this is sort of some areas to consider when you're looking at web resources and how you can evaluate them for your own research. The first point I would want you to consider is the resource's currency. Is this resource current for your topic? And does that currency matter? Are you looking for the most up-to-date information, perhaps related to maybe COVID-19? That's a situation that's always evolving. You might want to find the most recent material there. So currency would be really important. You don't want information from March of 2020 when we have a lot different information right now in 2022. You'll also want to consider the relevance of your resource. Does this resource relate directly to your topic? That should probably be a given. We want to find resources related to our research questions, but maybe taking the time to really think that through can be useful in your evaluation as well. You may also want to consider the authority of the resource. What are the credentials of the people who are responsible for this resource, and what gives them authority on this topic? So an example I like to share here is returning to that topic of the Mona Lisa. The Louvre would be considered an authority because they house the Mona Lisa. But if we had an art framing website that sort of sells a whole bunch of frames and they have a web page about the Mona Lisa, are they really an authority on the Mona Lisa? I don't think so. Joe's Frames, he's really just there to sell you some frames. He's an authority on frames, but nothing more. So you want to consider who the person is who's putting this content together. You'll also want to consider the accuracy of the resource. Does the resource have references or evidence to support its content? Could you go confirm that information elsewhere? Could you double check? That would be a really useful thing as well. You may also want to consider the purpose of the resource. Why does it exist? Does it have a biased stance on your topic? Is it trying to sell you something or persuade you of something? Or is it trying to educate? Again, Joe's Frames might be trying to sell you a frame that's maybe the replica of whatever frame surrounds the Mona Lisa, but the Louvre's website is there to educate and it wants to inform you about the Mona Lisa. So that's an important consideration as well. Sometimes as well, you can judge by appearance when you look at web resources. If you have a website that looks very outdated, it has lots of ads, it might not be the best choice for you. But maybe if you're researching old web design, that could be a useful thing. So context matters. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all rule. You have to be the final judge in this research. But also remember to follow your assignment. If your assignment says that you need to find only peer-reviewed articles, you should stick to peer-reviewed articles, and searching the open web is not going to be relevant to your assignment. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Ian. Oh, you're muted.
Evaluating your resources is so important. Where to search? We've gone through identifying key concepts, knowing that searching is an iterative process, evaluating where do you search. We've searched all Omni, but there's other resources to use as well. Where do you usually start your research? Another Mentimeter poll, put in the answer that best relates to your experience. Google Scholar, good starting point. Omni, that's why we have it on our front page. But there are other resources as well. So thanks for your feedback. Kind of mirrors what most people do. So good choices, but there are other choices as well. Omni is a powerful multidisciplinary tool. You don't know what it's searching, but it searches a lot of what we have in our library. It searches the Brock Library catalog, so our books and ebooks, manuscripts, things of historical content, but mostly it's articles and books from subscribed databases, things that you can't get on your own. And it helps you to find access to books, ebooks, journal articles, and other materials as well you may trip across. So Omni is a great first start. It's not the only place, but it's an excellent first start. Google Scholar, so quick and easy, so dirty, but it's so blunt as well. Access through our proxy link to get the resources on Omni. So go to the Brock homepage, click under search. There's many ways to get this, but if you click on Google Scholar and you move through it, what it does is not only helps you to do a search, but it maps it to our collections. So if you find an article through Google Scholar, it gives you a better chance of finding it in our library as well. Finding more places to search. Well, there's a list of databases that are there. Library databases are collections of online resources. They're open sometimes, but we subscribe to most of them that are usually linked to a specific subject or discipline. So going to the homepage, clicking on under databases brings up this screen. A to Z list of databases. Library databases are collections of online resources. They're usually linked to a subject, specific, or discipline. Brock Library provides access to 454 databases. Don't fret, that's okay, that's okay. I kind of go, wow, that's a lot. We link to online and subscribed databases. Being informed of which databases are most appropriate besides Omni and Google is always a good choice, as again, online searching is an iterative process. You can filter by subject. So in this example, you can filter by type. You can search for a specific database. Someone said this is what you should search. But under history, you can try some databases related to your subject area, your discipline, or the type of assignment that you're doing as well. Research guides and extra help for inspiration. If you go to the research, find a research guide, you can find them on our homepage through Research Help on Demand page. There's a link there. The library homepage supports a number of things by research, research help, and then you can browse those guides as well. Here's a list of 59 subject guides, and on the right is your friendly librarians. I see Chelsea's picture there. That can help you do this. So going through databases by subject or discipline, or just finding the one that best relates to your course or your assignment or your department brings up a choice of databases you can use as well. So let's recap. In this workshop, we're kind of winding down. So if you have a question or comment, we'll ask you a few questions before we leave. Break down your topic. Identify key concepts and develop a search strategy. Identifying key concepts is really important. Sometimes it takes a while to do that, but it really sets you up to be successful. Refine your search question, navigate a path through your research to find what you need. Again, research is an iterative process, and hopefully you'll be skilled at this and be able to help others as well and to be successful. The third point is identify high quality scholarly resources, databases, and strategies to evaluate web resources. There's no one search, there's no one database, but using Omni and Google Scholar and subject or discipline specific databases, knowing that you have a strategy and list of keywords and know how to navigate. Great tips and tricks we've given to you, you can be successful. And finally, find additional resources like Google Scholar and these databases to fill those buckets or to meet the requirements for the assignment. It changes all the time as the database changes, but only you know what you're looking for and when you've met that need. We can help, but this is a strategy we find that helps most people do great research. If you need help, lots of people, there's additional help can be helped. So thanks for coming to the workshop. Great idea to come here to learn these tips and trips. You can connect with librarians by chat. There's a chat feature on our library home site. I use it all the time for a quick reference. Or you can email us, or you can visit our resource support page. So this is what our research help and demand page looks for. It's a tab under research support, and it shows you the research guides by subject, and it invites you to build a research consultation or book an appointment, or to email a person, or to create a chat. And on this page, there's videos that actually work well, 2 to 5 minute videos that can help you get started about primary resources, planning my strategy, creating an annotated bibliography. Always great places to need help. And sometimes I find out what Why would someone go out for help? Well, you know what you're looking for when you need help. Sometimes people come to the librarians when they go, the faculty member or my TA or seminar leader said to do this, and I just didn't get that. I don't understand that at all. Maybe there's something that we went over today you'd like to help and have one-on-one expertise, and we can do that with you and work with your example as well. You need help getting started, or I need, and you finish the sentence, we can help with that. So reaching out to get help is often done, and it's usually quite successful. We want to advertise A to Z learning services. They're great resources, and though you may have tripped across this or been involved in this, or this is one of a series of workshops that you've come to, you can register for one of these workshops, and here's some that are coming up. So you'll get this in the slides that are sent out after if you've registered for this particular workshop. Some of them are great, and when I go by and see them, some of them are online. Some of them are Library Classroom B and are Learning Commons. There are 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people, so you can get one-on-one assistance. You can work as a group to work through these sorts of things. And so they're usually offered by students who are experts at this, just as we are experts in the library. Building a research outline, a thesis statement, we kind of touched on these sorts of things, but A to Z Learning is a great resource we partner with. We certainly encourage you browsing, searching, or attending one of these particular seminars. We can help. We've given examples of where we can help. We've thrown out an invitation. So thanks for coming today. Before we go, we have, I think, a couple of questions, Chelsea. What is or was your biggest takeaway from this particular presentation? Type in what you think worked for you, or something that was new, or something you'd never heard before. We'll take some time to get your feedback. Places to search, nice. Forward citation searching, yeah, that was new to me at one point. Great feedback, and you may reflect on it, so make sure you go through the presentation and the PowerPoint slides to kind of remember back or kind of reset how to organize my searches in terms to use. Oh, 100% correct, awesome.